October used to be a time to get super psyched about pro wrestling because it was in this month that wrestling fans would be graced by the event known as Halloween Havoc. And sadly, this pay-per-view is no longer around. But with the WWE kinda sorta bringing Starrcade back, us WCW fans still have hope that one day, one of the best pay-per-views that ever was could make a long overdue return. But what makes this pay-per-view so great, and why is it something that the WWE needs so badly? Well, there are many reasons, and I just happen to have 7 of them right now. Because today, Dave knows Halloween Havoc. Spin the wheel. Spin the wheel and make the deal was not a concept exclusive to Halloween Havoc. It's even appeared on Monday Night Raw following the WWF's purchase of WCW. However, Halloween Havoc is the event that is most strongly associated with it. Now on this wheel, there would be a variety of different match types, and whatever type of match the wheel landed on, well, that's the kind of match that the wrestlers would have to face off in. The idea was a lot of fun and a great way to build up excitement and anticipation, 2 things that mainstream wrestling could definitely use a little bit more of nowadays. Gimmick matches. Now, as stated, the wheel itself had many different types of matches, so it's not surprising that Halloween Havoc had no shortage of gimmick matches. And some of these gimmick matches actually had nothing to do with the wheel at all, they were just on the pay-per-view. And fine, not all these matches were great, like the coal miner's glove match, and some even left fans divided, like the Chamber of Horrors match, but others have been widely accepted as classics, like the Thunder Cage match and the Texas Death Match between Big Van Vader and Cactus Jack. Either way, with the WWE having gimmick pay-per-views that don't always deliver on their gimmicks, like Survivor Series pay-per-views without any actual Survivor Series team matches, or TLCs without a real TLC ladder match with titles suspended above the ring, and without the King of the Ring pay-per-view in general, wrestling could use a bit more fun gimmicky content, which is something that WCW may have gone overboard with from time to time, but it was also something that WCW often did right. Viva Las Vegas. As I've mentioned before, I do love it when a pay-per-view calls a particular city its home. While every single event does not need to take place there, it is nice when a wrestling event frequents a specific location often. And Halloween Havoc did just that, with Las Vegas, Nevada hosting 5 consecutive Halloween Havocs and becoming the unofficial home of the pay-per-view. The Maddox. When we see the lavish sets of WWE pay-per-views now, and even Raw and SmackDown sets, it's hard to remember that there was once a time when pay-per-view venues were dressed up not all that differently from regular shows. But Halloween Havoc was one of the pioneers of changing that. It was one of the early events that went all out. The sets got more and more creative and elaborate and always kept with the Halloween theme. Oh, and it wasn't just the sets, mind you. Commentators would also dress up, the intro graphics would be fairly in-depth, and the whole atmosphere of the show was very, very engrossing. And deservingly so. DDP versus Bill Goldberg. There are a few wrestlers out there that wrestling snobs tend to look down on for not being technical marvels. But when it came to Halloween Havoc, this was one of WCW's biggest pay-per-views of the year, which caused some wrestlers to step up their game to new heights. And no example of this could be any better than DDP versus Goldberg. Up until this point, Diamond Dallas Page was not yet a main eventer, and some have also criticized him from a wrestling standpoint too. And also, many wrestling fans, myself included, have been pretty harsh when it comes to critiquing the talent level of Bill Goldberg. And while there were still a few snafus that occurred during the match, it still managed to deliver in terms of presentation and storytelling, as well as raising the technical game of both men in ways that even the harshest critics were not expecting. So despite how you feel about either of these 2 wrestlers, it's still hard to deny that this match wasn't a solid watch. Rey Mysterio versus Eddie Guerrero. So while Halloween Havoc having that big fight feel caused some lower loved wrestlers by critics to elevate their game to new levels, so true was this for critically praised wrestlers as well. Chris Jericho versus Raven, Brian Pillman versus Ricky Morton, and of course, Rey Mysterio versus Eddie Guerrero. This is highly regarded as one of the best matches in the pay-per-view's history, even topping a lot of main events. And some have even called this one of the best matches of all time. Period. And remember, this was also during a time when the NWO was in full swing. And for some old school wrestling fans who were detractors of the direction that WCW was going at this time, who missed the old NWA days, this pure technical wrestling match would remind a lot of these fans about what they've been missing all along. And not only did it do right by old school fans, but this match also worked to solidify the cruiserweights as a serious force in WCW. Retaliation. One of my favorite aspects of the pay-per-view is that it seems to be a direct response to the Survivor Series. Predating WrestleMania, Starrcade was a Thanksgiving tradition, but Vince McMahon decided he was going to invade their turf when he created the Survivor Series. and after strong-arming pay-per-view providers into favoring WCW, Starrcade would eventually move aside to December. But WCW would not be without a fall holiday-themed pay-per-view. So while WWF would eventually get November all to themselves for a little while, the month of All Hallows Eve would become something that wrestling fans could really look forward to. And it was all thanks to Halloween Havoc. Well, there you go. What are some of your favorite Halloween Havoc moments? Let me know down in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, this has been Dave Knows.